Hello and welcome to another episode of the Music Corner, part of the Jibber podcast. Once again, my name is Todd. So today we're going to have a little bit of a different video. Last time we were here on our first episode, we ranked the albums of McFly. That video was up on the channel, went up last week. Feel free to give that a watch if you've not done already. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. Basically, I'm just going to, speak about a subject that I am quite interested in. And it's a subject of music live archives. Now, something that you'll get to learn on the channel as time goes on is I am a massive fan of Bruce Springsteen. For me, he's my favourite artist of all time, and I'm sure that I'll do plenty of videos in the future kind of speaking why. But the reason why I bring him up is because as part of my fandom of Bruce Springsteen, I discovered that he does a live archive series. He started it back in 2014. He's certainly not the first artist to have done this, but the idea is that in 2014 he started doing instant live performances. Now what this is basically when a music artist or a band, when they play live on tour, they make recordings of the tour like people used to bootleg, but they do actual live soundboard recordings of the concert and make them available for download or purchase only days or sometimes even 24 hours after the concert. And Bruce did this back in 2014 with his High Hopes tour, and subsequently did it on his 2016 World Tour for the River Tour, which I actually seen him live in, of course. So it gives fans the opportunity to download and enjoy the concerts that they attended. It's a really good idea. Of course, as I mentioned, it's not one that is a particularly new one. Even back in 2014, Bruce was certainly not the first. It's quite difficult to pinpoint who the first was, really. If I did my research, I'm sure I could find out, but certainly bands like Pearl Jam and Metallica have certainly been doing this for a long time and still continue to this day. And then you've got bands like Kiss, who back in the day would do something similar, but instead of putting downloads online for download, they would give USB sticks to people who attended the concert, like almost straight after the gig. Sometimes you could even buy CDs. I've got nothing to confirm that, but I think they did that with their Alive 35 tour. I could be wrong on that. People could pull me up on that, because Kiss is a band who've got lots of fans out there who know a lot of things about Kiss. And I like Kiss. I really like Kiss, but I can't say that I'm one of these people who knows everything about Kiss yet. So you get the idea. You go to a concert, you hopefully enjoy it enough, and then you can go and actually buy or download the concert after you've listened to it. It's a great idea. Now, in addition to what Springsteen has done, he has now started to go back into his archive, and he started to dig out old concerts from across his career. Now, this isn't particularly new. You're thinking to yourself, Todd, artists do this all the time, live releases. Yeah, they do, and it's something that's been done for years. But what Bruce and bands like Metallica and Pearl Jam and stuff are doing is they are starting to go back and cover just about every tour they've ever done. Bruce has done it, technically, already. He's got I think it's 68 or 69 live releases to date, and this ranges from 1975 all the way up to 2013. Now, I mentioned it did the 2014 and 2016 tour, so basically all of his tours are now covered. Some are more well covered than others, but, you know, every tour is available, and I think for some bands, or fans of some bands, some fans would really love that, and I'm quite lucky that, as Bruce Springsteen fan, I can say that we have that already. So, let me tell you why this is important. For an artist like Bruce Springsteen, he's been around for a long time. As I mentioned, these live archives go back as far as 1975. Now, Bruce has been around longer than 1975. His first album was released in 1973, which is absolutely donkeys ago. I mean, we're talking close to 50 years here now. In 22 years' time, it'll be 50 years, basically. Now, I could be completely off on my maths there, and I really hope I ain't, but I'm just going off the fly with this. So there's a lot of tours that Springsteen never released. Now, just to give you an idea, Bruce Springsteen is a fantastic, phenomenal live performer, especially with the E Street Band, and the performances are often mythical, legendary, and have been bootlegged by fans for years and years and years and years. And of course, as time goes by, these bootlegs are not often the best audio quality. Some are old radio broadcasts from back in the day, and they're certainly not bad, especially when modern technology can kind of jazz them up a little bit. But they're not perfect audio quality. So to have Bruce Springsteen and his team officially go back and digging out what they have, most of them in multi-track form, and remastering the audio to a high standard with the technology that we have nowadays, and then releasing them to the fans is pretty cool. And, you know, as you can imagine, there's a lot of fans who've got a bit of a wish list. So this is something that is really something that I think more artists should be doing. I mean, you're not going to get every artist doing it now. This is another thing about Bruce Springsteen that kind of sets him aside from other bands. When you go and see a band on tour, the majority of the time, the band is going to have a set list for each tour. Now, if I mentioned the band I covered in the last video, McFly. Now, McFly, great live band, fantastic. But whenever I went to see them on tour, it was always a case of I could check online to see what their tour set list was. For example, what they play on the first date in Manchester or Brighton, wherever, is going to be the same in Glasgow as when I see them. They are not going to change. It's a set in stone set list. It's going to be exactly the same. That's kind of guaranteed with McFly. And to release a live archive from McFly maybe wouldn't really benefit too much. I mean, it would be nice to get a live release from each tour, but they're not going to go in and say, well, here's the Motion in the Ocean tour live from Wembley, like the live release they did. Oh, and here's the one from Glasgow. They're going to be practically the same. There's going to be differences here and there, but the songs are going to be the same, the set list the same. There's not really a point in releasing a different concert, really, from that tour. It's the same with bands like Kiss. Kiss have really kind of got a set list in mind, but depending on where they are in the world, they might add one or two songs in. Like, for example, when they were on their last tour here and I saw them, they played Crazy Nights because it was a massive hit over here in the UK. They didn't play that in the American leg. There might be small set changes like that, but they're largely like McFly. And they've actually started, I believe, their own live archive series called Off the Soundboard. I don't know how far that will get, but I'll maybe cover that in a future episode. But they kind of have started to dip their toe in the water of this, and that could be really cool. But I think they would maybe suffer from the same problems I've mentioned with McFly. Now, getting back to Bruce Springsteen, here's the beauty of his live archive series. Now, with Bruce Springsteen, he doesn't really choose a set-in-stone set list. You might hear Badlands, you might hear Thunder Road, you'll definitely hear Born to Run, but you might also get to hear a song he doesn't play as often. You might get to hear a Point Blank, you might get to hear a Loose Ends, you might get to hear, heck, a Thundercrack. You never quite know with Bruce, and the live archive series gets to allow fans to go and cherry pick those concerts, because there might be a concert where if you go back, you go, wow, he played that song and that song live. I really want to hear that song live, or I want to have that song live. You get to choose this. You also get to have gigs that you never really thought you would ever have, gigs that maybe wouldn't see the light of day. For example, Bruce Springsteen is not going to make an official live release of Boston 1992 with the other band publicly unless it's part of the live archive series. This series is a series for the hardcore fans who want to have everything. And as I've fallen into it, that's the way we are. It's really something I think other artists should look into. I would love to cover the Bruce Springsteen archive series and kind of break down favourite releases and things like that, but I'll be totally honest with you, there is so much to cover. I mean, we're almost 70 releases in now. We're looking at like a monthly release. It's really something to look forward to every month, a live release every month. If you're interested in getting into his live archive series, go to the website where they're hosted. Bruce Springsteen gets hosted by Nugs, Nugs. That's the company who kind of deals with these releases for Bruce. They're all online. There's also, I can't remember his name now, but there's a guy who's, I think his name's Kieran. He has a blog where he's basically covered every Springsteen live archive release. He has reviewed them. He has talked in ridiculous detail about them. For me, they are you've got Springsteen's archive website, but for me, to know which ones, if you want to get started as a Springsteen fan, his blog is really the place to go, and I'm going to give him a little bit of press here because he's put a lot of work into it. As for live archives going forward, I mean, the Bruce Springsteen one doesn't really have to have an end in sight. It's likely he will tour again in the next couple of years, and when that happens, we will get the instant lives of those, which is really cool. And I think they'll just continue to release live archives until the vault's emptied. There's some tours that you couldn't quite record. I know there was an issue with the Rising tour where they couldn't quite get the technology, or the technology they used was out of date, and as a result they've lost a lot of those concerts. But they did release one, so at least every tour's covered. Yeah, it's really something that I think artists really should be looking into, because at the end of the day, people are going to bootleg these concerts anyway. People really want to listen to them. So why, as an artist, would you not just think, we've got that there, let's just make some money off it, and the fans would love it. Anyway, we'll see how we go, especially regarding things like the Kiss Off the Soundboard series. I'm not convinced about that in the minute. The release they had, 2001 from Tokyo, which is here, this was recently released, is really cool. And I really hope it leads somewhere with Kiss, because Kiss is a band I would like to have them archive every one of their tours at least. But for me, the Springsteen one is still the to-go-to one. It's one that if you're a Springsteen fan, heck, why are you not doing this already? But if you're a fan of a band, maybe you should just be kind of hitting them up. Maybe you should be pressing for this, because it's really cool. Also mentioned that it's not just downloads. He does CDs as well. They're a bit overpriced for me. But heck, you can just download the CDs and make them yourself at home as a hobby if you want to do that. I know I certainly have. Heck, it's something to think about. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on Live Archive series. If you've got anything to comment, just comment below, and we will hopefully speak to you about it. So once again, thanks for joining me, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.